All right, we're live.
Hey, Antwain Jackson.
Yo, what's up?
Apostle Antwain Jackson coming to get messy with Mahogany Reign.
They used to it. They used to it with me. Well, if you don't know me, then you gonna know tonight.
Look here, I can learn a lot. I can learn
Listen,
a lot. Well, firstly, I just want to say thank you so much for giving your time. I know your schedule is incredibly busy. You are in high demand these days.
Jesus.
And I am so grateful and honored to be able to bring you in on this conversation, as I know you will bring a lot of value to the conversation. And I'm sure we'll both learn a lot by the
Sure.
time we're finished with all of this.
I'm honored to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yes. Did you get a chance to look over the material we sent you?
So so you guys that are first time like learning me, like anything that I'm gonna be asked tonight is gonna be straight from the heart.
There it is.
Like straight up, straight from the heart. Because especially if we're having conversations, I'm sure where this will go about the church and the impacts, that the church itself has had on people. I just want people to encounter real pastors. Um, that really, if I don't know the answer to something, I will say I don't know.
Girl,
You
I
know,
don't
I,
know.
I don't even know. Look, I don't even know if I don't know. But
Right.
authenticity means a lot to me, so I'm honored to share my thoughts with anything you ask tonight.
Same here, same here. Well, we are talking about some topics surrounding my newest title, Saved Hot Mess.
I love it.
Um, for those of you that know me as Khadijah Amira, I decided to release my books under the pen name Mahogani Reign for a bunch of reasons. Privacy, and then also because of how much I love authenticity, I wanted to be able to speak freely without connecting it to all my folks. People
Mm,
be putting two and two together, like that sound like this and that sound like that. I just really feel like people deserve their privacy. Just because I want to go blabber all my business and thoughts, it doesn't mean that those around me want that same thing. And so I was inspired to write Save Time Mess, the devotional for the imperfect, just based upon me feeling like I was in the corner as a Christian for some of my experiences, for some of my mistakes and my beliefs. And I really felt like some of these topics, I wanted to bring them to the forefront. And I opened my Bible and was like, what does God say about these things? And so it started as, just a download from God and something that felt good in my spirit. And I literally went on a journey as I wrote everything in the book. And to God be the glory. My publisher accepted it into my catalog. And now it's, as you guys can see, it's on Target.com. I went into the studio. I recorded an Audible. It's on Kindle. It's on Amazon, and affectionately on the Dynamic Image website. That's where we get the most royalties, y'all. That's where
period.
we get the most royalties. And so we're gonna be talking about some of the questions that we have come up with, and also some that we have gotten, just surrounding a few topics in particular. And so, I guess as soon as our prompter puts them up, we'll get going. How you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling wonderful.
You feeling wonderful? Can
I'm
you
feeling
tell the
wonderful.
audience a little bit more about you?
Sure. Well, for you guys that don't know me, my name is Antwain Jackson. I am the pastor of the Equation Church. They let me pastor them. Ain't that crazy? I'm the pastor of the Equation Church here in St. Louis, Missouri. I am a father. I am a author of a book called The Creative Leader, who said creatives couldn't be bosses, something I'm very proud of. Um, I'm a realist. I love living life. I travel, preach, teach, and I love photography, and I love food, and I love riding my bike, and I just love life. And so I'm excited to be a part of this conversation. I'm a brother tonight, and glad to talk.
I love it. I'm here for it. Can you hold your book up again before we get
Sure.
started talking so people can kind of take a peek at it? You guys see that? The Creative Leader. And can you tell them how to purchase and support that book?
The best way to get the book is just go to Amazon. You get it Amazon. You can go on my website at antwainjackson.org as well if you want it.
Okay, awesome. I'm excited. I'm excited from any heat you get off of this. Look,
Listen.
look, all press is good press, you know?
All right.
Okay, so I've asked this question to some of our other guests, and I wanted to pose a question to you, and it's, why do people expect perfection from the Christian community?
You know, I think if we can solve this problem, we will be in the money. I think the reason why people expect perfection from the Christian community is because we serve a perfect God, and I don't think that people can understand or like grasp the idea that we serve a perfect God, but we are as imperfect as we are. And it seems as if the longer you're in the community, the longer you serve God, the more you are aware and acquainted with your own personal imperfections, which makes you serve God stronger. And so I think that people just have this misnomer that the church is heaven and the church is not heaven. You know what I'm saying? So heaven is where it's perfect. Down here is where it's broken. And I think the goal is not perfection. I don't think the goal was ever perfection. I personally don't. I think there is brokenness in all of us that shows us our need for something that is perfect. And so I think that the reason why there is brokenness in us is so that it shows us that we need God who's outside of us to be inside of us.
Man, I feel that our previous guest, Minister Goings, when we talked about this question last week, I expressed to her that I was kind of unconventional as I was born into Islam, and I converted to Christianity by my own decision, because I just love Jesus. I need tight.
Yeah,
just
good, man.
Man,
so
once
wonderful.
you get to know him and stuff, you know, the whole Holy Spirit, all of that, you know. But no, but really, I feel like I definitely walked into it thinking that it was perfection, but really, like you said, I was just broken. I wanted to be fixed. And anytime somebody didn't fit into that, you know, it just kind of threw me off. But something I forgot to mention that just came, you know, with me just listening to you answer that question, is that I think too, when you first hit Christianity, like when you first, you know, you open the doors and that altar call happened, I think we go into it with such pure intentions.
Yes.
That we then in turn expect that of others. Because I remember my walk as a Christian at one point felt like I was being held hostage. I didn't have enough I guess spiritual maturity to understand the grace and the love that comes with following Jesus Christ.
Right.
I was, you know, I gotta do this way. I can't do this. Like, and it's so funny because I've turned into somewhat of an agreeable rebel. I don't know if that's a thing, but like, I know I'll do things that I want to spark conversation, that I want to double down on my beliefs. But maybe they don't always look so conventional. Like, even to be funny, I wore red lipstick on purpose. I was like, I'm finna Jezebel it out.
Because red lipstick makes a woman a Jezebel.
Oh man, I'm a streetwalker.
Lord God.
I'm a whole streetwalker with this red lipstick. And
Lord Jesus.
No, but no, nobody's a street disclaimer, because I don't want you to get no bad press. Nobody's a streetwalker because they have a nose ring and red lipstick.
Right.
No, but unfortunately, you know, they associate worldliness all the time with not being good enough to be a Christian. So I'm grateful though that like you said, it's getting better. Like, pastors, speakers, leaders, evangelists, apostles, they're coming forward now, and they're basically standing up to some of those misconceptions in the Christian community. And I'm so grateful for it, because it solidifies our place, and it, to me, opens the door for our children. I know you said you have a daughter. How old is she?
She's 16.
Okay, I have a 14-year-old.
Yep.
And I have a 6-year-old. Yep.
Wow.
So we probably going through some of the same things right now.
This ain't this show tonight.
It's mighty ghetto. It's mighty ghetto.
Ghetto, right?
But we got to make sure that we make Jesus attractive for our children too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that erasing that perception is going to really be helpful.
Yes. You know, I tell people all the time, and I even tell my daughter this, that I'm her father, I'm not her pastor.
Well,
if she chooses me to be her pastor, that would be the greatest honor of my life. But my responsibility to her is to be her father. And my goal is to do that and be that well. And hopefully she sees my love for the Lord, and she sees my love for the people. And that, you know what I'm saying, inspires her relationship with the Lord. But that's our personal journey with Jesus. And I ain't losing no sleep over it. Like I tell people all the time, like, I'm not losing any sleep over it. The Bible says to train up a child in the way that they should go. And it says, but when they get old, they won't depart. See, we've misunderstood the scripture. Scripture says that when they get old, they won't depart. It didn't say when they were young, they wouldn't depart.
That's
so
big.
I understand that she gets the benefit of probably what you and I didn't get to do. And that was experience. You know, like I feel like because of my faith and me getting saved, like I don't regret it. I got saved at 15 years old, but I did for a while. I feel like it was more about my behavior than it was my relationship with the Lord. And so I didn't live fully or freely. And so now that I'm aware that that's not the way that Jesus wants me to live, I live fully and freely, and she gets the benefit of that.
I see we stepping on toes early with the messiness. I
Listen.
heard that. I want to be a cool kid and agree with you, but I wasn't raised like that. My mom, shout out to mommy, she is a very Erykah Badu, spirit leads you type of person, and I love and respect my mom. But she literally did look at me and my brother and say, I want you all to figure out what's best for you. And I will say it was pros and cons to that. You know, now that I'm an adult, I love the fact that my children have the nurturing environment of the church, that they have that sense of community, that foundation. That's something I wish I had as a kid. But I would say the pro of the situation is it did give me probably a really authentic relationship with Christ and my ability to choose him at my own discretion that I don't really see amongst a lot of my peers, because they have that same backstory that they was dragged to church, made to do this, made to do that, and they weren't judged off of their behavior. And I can only imagine, like I'm not even gonna sit here and stunt and act like I can, but I can only imagine the identity crisis that sets up.
True. Very true.
Yeah. So yeah, that's dope. So as it pertains to temptation, we're gonna talk about temptation.
Let's do it. As
it pertains to temptation, is it human nature, or do we speak it into our lives?
Is this sexual temptation? Is like what kind of temptation?
I guess temptation of sin. Any
okay.
Sin. Temptation. We can talk about sex.
Well, you know, because you know when people think about the term temptation, you know, they miscarry to sexuality. And like I always just try to tell people that your natural normal urges that have been built into you biologically cannot be equated to temptation. That would make no sense. You know what I'm saying? Like that would be like if I smell food that I'm all of a sudden a glutton. Like it's just too extreme. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so I feel like that when we think about temptation, to me, temptation has to be things that I can't have, not the stuff that I can have.
Slow it down for us a little bit.
Okay. And I'm sorry for you guys to know me. Like, it's just my brain. It's just the way my brain thinks. If I can go and get me something to drink, that's not a temptation because it's within my reach. I can go do that. But temptation to me, it has to be something that's outside of my reach, or something that I have to strive for and get.
Mm.
So I feel like all of us are tempted with something. All of us have a desire for things that pull us out of balance, pull us out of our relationship with God, pull us into extremes, right? And so we all have that propensity to go after things that aren't good for us. So I'll just say that.
Yeah.
So is it human nature? Well, our flesh has a desire. We have two minds. We have the mind of the spirit, and then we have the mind of our flesh. And our flesh has desires of things that sometimes war against our inner nature and our soul. So we have to keep this, you know what I'm saying?
Man.
Got to keep it in order. And the only way you can keep it in order is by discipline. So when somebody's, or so that with the question that says, or do we speak it into our lives? I think the reality is it's about your meditation, right? Because as a man thinks in his heart, so is the man. And typically it's what comes out of your mouth, or what you speak out of your mouth, are the things that you're meditating on. So it's really what you put in that you need to be careful of, because what you put in is what you're going to put out. And so what I like to explain to people about situations like this, or temptation, is you just have to be very careful about what you're taking in. And if you are disciplined about what you're taking in, you can control the output of your life.
Wow. Yeah, I was sure gonna ask you. So if a fine man walk up on me and tell me I smell good,
That's
is
not
that temptation, or is
that's not
that
temptation.
that man just minding his business and something wrong with
Yeah,
me?
that is not
No.
temptation. You know, that's so funny. What the scripture says, man looks on the outward appearance. It's God that looks at the heart. So I tell people all the time, God is the one looking at your heart. We're looking at you with our eyes.
Well,
So it's not temptation. You know, I think that these conversations are healthy because I think it helps locate the extremes and the stuff that religion has taught us that's just not real. It's just not real. Like, God made nothing for beauty, although things are beautiful. This is why you can find something beautiful that I may not find beautiful,
yeah.
because it just doesn't have the subjectivity. So it gives us, we all have to have this ability to make wise decisions and self-control with our life, so that it just doesn't lead us into down extreme roads.
Wow. Okay. I think I understand more. I know for me, um, I don't know. Sometimes when I experience human nature, I mean, not human nature, when I experience temptation in different areas, over drinking, because God said we can have wine. Didn't the apostle? He said don't drink too much wine. Is that what he said?
The goal again is self-control.
Yeah, he said don't drink too much. He said we have a taste.
Yeah, that's right. Yes,
Don't
the
drink
goal
too
is
much.
self-control. Jesus
Yeah.
turned that water into wine. Listen,
Let me tell you
he
something.
turned that water into wine. They say, listen here, Mr. Jesus, we don't know what you did, sir. But usually they drink the good stuff at the beginning, and then they save that cheap stuff. The more she drinks, the better you look for
Right.
the end. But for some odd reason, you must have flipped this around here, Mr. Jesus, because this is better than we've ever had in our life.
Man, I promise. I promise. And it's like I find myself when I do struggle, with maybe over drinking or over partying, or sometimes I'm tempted to lie. Sometimes I'm tempted by the men. So look. I think that's one of my main ones right through here, if I'm gonna be honest. But I do wonder if I'm predisposed to it, or is it something that I'm not having enough discipline for? Because we being messy. By messy too, and let me define, I'm not trying to talk about anything to tear anybody down. I'm just stepping into territory that's not so conventional on paper for Christians to talk about. That's what we mean by messy. But like me, I did experience some things as a child. I was touched too soon. And praise be to God, my mom took it very seriously. She, got me therapy. She made sure that I had justice for the situation, and I'm able to have healthy sexual relationships now. And I feel like it's not something that looms over me, but sometimes I wonder, would I ever have been able to control the way that I look about that? Would I ever been able to control these things? And so I just wanted to unpack that, because I know for a very long time, right now, I feel like, shoot, grace can swipe and erase this entire, slide.
Sure.
But I feel like before I got there, I walked around with a lot of shame and a lot of guilt, simply because I thought about things, or because I might have struggled a little bit more about things than I saw other people. And that's kind of why I thought this question would be helpful, because if there is someone out there that's listening or stumbled across this video, almost hearing it from the horse's mouth, they can give themselves just a little room to breathe, just at least unbutton a little bit.
Right.
Like it's okay. Like you said, if you see something, it don't mean you're gonna touch it,
Right. But you said something super powerful that shows a level of self-awareness, because you talked about being predisposed. I think this is where a lot of our extreme nature with how we and I use the term religion like super loosely. Like I hate to even use it. I hate to even use the term, but I feel like that's where a lot of our extremes come from in our behavior, because we had been so predisposed to things that were inappropriate and wrong and lacked education, that we never want to experience those emotional traumas, those physical traumas. And so then we just swing so far to the other side of these things, where everything becomes ultra sinful, the devil, demons,
right,
in all of it, where it's like, well, that's too far. You know what I'm saying? And so although I hate using the word balance, I really do. I'm the type of person that's like, let me just help you see it clear. Let me just help you see it clear. Like, what happened isn't right, but the extreme stuff that we're pushing people to disconnect them from it ain't right either. So there is a way that we can actually live this stuff out and work through this stuff and not lose our sense of sanity, rightness. And I'm a preacher that preaches self-control. I preach self-control. That's a fruit of the Spirit, self-control. So for me, you're not spiritual without self-control.
Since they want to say spirit, I'm spiritual.
Right. So spiritual means self-control.
Well,
that's what it means. So it means I have awareness of my identity. And because I understand that I am a spirit in a body, then I live from that place. That's what spirituality means to me. I live from my identity. So I live from the inside out. And who I am, how I see myself, and my relationship to God is what you see in my expression, in my characteristics, in my behavior.
Wow. I have to say, your transparency, and I'm gonna speak for me as a millennial. I'm 32 years old. I'm creeping up there. As a Black woman, as somebody that has some stuff that's unconventional. I'm almost finished with my divorce. I was a teen mom, so I got all these little statistics. From that perspective, seeing transparency on a leader is so refreshing, and it helps me with temptation. Because if I can see a leader say, hey, I deal with this sometimes, or I struggle with this sometimes, or this was some things that I used to do and I overcame, it helps me be able to feel like I can do it too. And I really feel like I unfortunately I see that missing. I don't know if a lot of leaders or pastors, I don't know if it becomes a issue of their privacy and they're trying to protect. I mean, because they have a right to, just like I said, hey, I go up under pen name. It's kind of hard to have that type of privacy if your whole family and your life is on display. But at the same time, I almost feel like it's kind of required, because it's almost like synonymous with testimony. And it's like, how else is somebody able to relate if you're not like that?
Mm. You know, it's an issue of privacy and persona. Because of what we do. And I hate to equate this way, so please, I'm not being crass. I just think this is the best way to
No, it's fine.
You know, to share with it. Many people, because they're lazy spiritually, they tip preachers and churches like they do a stripper. So it's entertainment. So in their mind, they process it as entertainment. So if the preacher lives well, preaches well, emotes well, then they go, oh, well, that's a good job. And it's an exchange of emotional services. When I try to tell people all the time but my responsibility is for your soul, which includes your mind, your will, and your emotions. So I'm not there just for your emotions, because there will be things that I will say to you that will make you mad.
Yeah.
There will also be a way in my life that I don't even measure up to what I'm preaching. It still don't change my responsibility. Because it's not my gospel. I can't tell you my gospel. So if I'm preaching something that affects you and affects me, then we both have to live up. I got to go to God and say, you know what? I got to come up and I got to measure up in that area too. Yeah. So I think that partly some of the difficulties is the way that people interpret the life of people in ministry. And I think that these conversations, again, help change that narrative. That I've seen smoking doctors before.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? Like, come on, the doctor telling you got diabetes and you better stop smoking, and on their break, they go outside and take a smoke. You know, like, we've all seen contradictions.
Yeah.
We've all seen contradictions. And so you will see contradictions amongst preachers too. But there is a difference between wickedness and weakness. And that's where I hang my hat. I want to make sure that I hang my hat on anything that I do as a result of my weakness.
Weak.
Not me being wicked.
Well, I'm here for it. I like when you bust out like that. Keep that going. I like that.
You know, this is real.
You know? Bust out that. I think so. No, seriously, I don't know if I have like a weird sub-dom perspective about my Christianity, but I like being. I know I didn't went there. I really like being convicted. Like, my cousin sent me a sermon today by Michael Ty called I'm a mess it up. Sorry, Michael Ty. But basically he was talking about how you can bamboozle your blessing. And it was a lot of hard stuff to take in. I mean, he covered pride, he covered Jesus' most important title being servant, and how that's what we need to acknowledge is making sure that we're being servants to not only our leaders, but to the people around us, and how attractive that should be. And don't be so taken aback by someone who, you know, they have a lot of people being servants to them. You're supposed to want to serve others. And I just felt so convicted, and it blessed me. I almost wanted to make it my sermon of the year, because every year I have that one sermon that I feel like just takes me away to prepare me to grow for the next year. And so my cousin was like, girl, I don't know if you're gonna like it. It might hurt your feelings, because they gonna get on that thing that you do, you know, cousin, when you be saying it, you know. And I said, no, girl, it's the exact opposite. If I can sit down and listen to a sermon and not leave the same way I came, I almost feel cheated.
Right.
I like to be beat up on. I like to be convicted. I like to know that I can change and that I can be better.
Yes.
I don't necessarily feel like somebody's hurting my feelings. They're helping me so I can be a stronger Christian. So, no, keep it going, because I'm sure there's other weirdos like me, weird Christians that like to be convicted and like to grow. Look.
Yeah, you know, anybody knows me, no, I don't bite my tongue much. I'm always considerate of my words. Because I think that's powerful. Words are powerful. But I also don't bite my tongue in a way because I'm afraid of I'm not afraid of telling people hard truths. Like I don't, it's not honor if it's not honest. So you can't say that you honor people, but then you lie to them. So it's not honor without honesty to me. So I'll tell you the truth, but the Bible says to speak the truth in love. So I do have a responsibility to watch my tone and my heart, you know what I'm saying, toward when I'm telling the truth. But I can't just, you cannot weaponize truth and say that you're being spiritual either. And that's some of what I struggle with in our generation, where people are self-righteous because they weaponize truth. It's just because it's true. They feel like they don't have to care about how they say it. But that's not the case.
I
The
think
Bible,
that's towards, I'm starting stuff. That's towards all them church mothers that be judging us for wearing red lipstick and little skirts.
right, exactly.
Short skirts.
Exactly.
Yeah. Look, Apostle Antwain Jackson said y'all can't do that no more.
You can't.
Y'all weaponizing the truth.
And if they're a part of my church, they know doggone well I'll say something about it. Like, you can't say anything to a woman in my church about what she wears if you're not going to take her to buy her anything.
Well, there it is.
You only can have an opinion.
Go up in there with the Fashion Nova special of the day, but
yeah, right. Yeah, you can only have an opinion where you will take responsibility.
Yeah. Speaking of responsibility, we about to swing up into blame. Let's play the blame game. Mm-hmm. Okay, so how do we get out of the toxic cycle of the blame game?
This is one of those hard pills to swallow, but my thing is, the only common denominator in our lives is ourselves. And you can't do anything about what somebody does to you, but you can do everything about how you let it affect you. And I feel like when it comes down to the blame game, or that cycle of the blame game, we want somebody to acknowledge that what they said to us or did to us was wrong. Right? That's really what it comes down to. And it's a level of self-righteousness. So for me, I have learned that even when things happen to me or are done to me or said about me that I'm not a fan of, or that I feel like it's just not right, I feel some sense of injustice, I'm always asking myself, what can I learn from it? I'm weird in this one space. I'm weird in this one space that for me, I will look into something to see what I can learn from it. I really would. I don't always.
Give me an example?
Sure. Well, I mean, as a pastor doing what I do, dress how I dress, do ministry how I do ministry, and as expressive as I am on whatever topic of a myriad of things, I am the subject of at people's dinner table every day. From am I dating? Who am I dating? I mean, it just, you can't be a single pastor with dreads like this and fresh and nobody think you know what I'm saying? Like, so I'm not dumb, you know what I'm saying, to the realities of how people will perceive me, in my life and my lifestyle. But for me, I know the type of person I am. I know how I live. I also know my schedule. So I know what I did and I know what I didn't do. And so for me, if I ever hear anything, then I can acknowledge what I did. I'm like, oh, yeah, that was me. Or I'm like, no, that ain't me. But I ain't going to spend no time I'm not going to waste emotional energy trying to prove something to people that they only want to be right anyway. So that's how you break that cycle. Like, you got to know who you're dealing with. Sometimes people just want to be right. Let them be right.
Well, I talked
to
what you want to think earlier. I talked to my brother on the phone earlier.
Yeah.
And he's in prison right now. Free Hakeem. And we were talking on the phone about just some patterns that we saw as kids and stuff like that. And we were talking about people pointing fingers and how they always say 3 point back at you. And that's something that we use so loosely, but I think it's just so true. Because anytime you draw attention to someone else's imperfection, or you draw attention to someone else's shortcoming, or you draw attention to someone else just to bring attention to them, you're now bringing attention to yourself.
Yes.
And I don't even think that people know that that's the case. Right. I know when I love to put myself on the chopping block because it shows how much I've grown and it encourages me to continue to grow. I definitely hit that blame game. I should have got the award when I was first separating from my husband, and I was running with it. Mm. He did this, and I will say, with our separation, most of the stuff that was shown outwardly, yes, he was mostly wrong. But I had to go and I had to look at myself for stuff that I was doing that was wrong.
Sure.
My shutting down when I'm upset and becoming emotionally unavailable. My tendency to have certain control over the situation. You know, I felt like, oh, I'm not controlling if I'm not abusive. Mm. I really had to dig into that because for some reason, and I don't know if it's, you know, maybe just the advocacy for, you know, against domestic violence and stuff like that. But for some reason, I used to think that control and abuse was synonymous. Mm. Like I really thought that you had to have one with the other. It's like, I'm not abusive, so I'm not controlling.
Right.
You know, but I did realize that controlling the behavior can come off as abusive, even if it's not textbook abusive. Mm-hmm. The need to control, the need to have things a certain type of way. Mm-hmm. And I realized that the source of that was because of a lot of control was taken from me at a young age at certain times in my life. And being able to dig deeper into that, it hurt at first. Mm-hmm. But it definitely helped me.
Yeah.
And my future husband is gonna be so grateful.
Yeah.
This counseling I've been in, the word, all of that. I feel like I've God's definitely been assisting me and working on me, but I'm cautious to say that whole God working on me thing because a lot of times people think they ain't got to do nothing with it.
That's right.
Like, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So, Christian, I see you switch that out like that. Christian's so good. She like, let's do a proper.
We'll come back to it.
Yeah. So, how do you deal with the pressure of being a single Christian in today's society? And if you could also put a little / a single pastor.
Mm. Well, I think that, I mean, I guess this is a messy conversation, so I guess we can just say it like it is.
Can we please?
Yeah. I think that many people think that because I'm a single pastor that women want me like that. And I have come to realize that women ain't studied me like that. Like this, I'm serious. I'm so serious. People from the outside just believe that people knocking down my door, sliding in my DM, in my inbox, you know, all of that stuff, just trying to, and I don't think these people study me like that. And I don't know. It could just be me. Sometimes I can be very blind because I don't read into interactions. However, there is a real, I think the only pressure, one of the pressures that I feel like I face is the pressure to settle. Because it's almost as if the church don't believe that you're credible or that you are a hoe if you are single. So there's those very two drastic worlds of you not whole, you need a partner, you need somebody to help you, you know what I'm saying, in ministry. Or clearly you're single, so it means you get horny, so that means you got to be smashing somebody, something got to be going on. So, you know, you have those two.
Gay.
Or you gay, right? Or you gay. I forgot about that part. Yeah, gay. It's like, so the reality is to settle those arguments. What do? Well, you want to just get married. Well, for me, I would listen, and I say this all the time. I would rather y'all be skeptical of me the rest of my life than to actually be in a horrible marriage. Than to actually come home and be in a horrible marriage. Y'all can be skeptical of me the rest of your freaking life. I will deal with that all day than to actually be in a horrible marriage. And so the way that I deal with the pressures of this is I'm a busy person. And I work hard. I have a hard work ethic. But I also play hard. I have a great life and great lifestyle. I have a disciplined schedule. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm up. I go to the gym. I do personal development. I focus. I use my life for good and to help people. I actually have a church. So I actually have people to pastor and responsibilities and bills to pay and people to see, so I actually have a real life that requires focus. I have great friends, what I'm saying, that keep me grounded. And so I think the pressure is dealing with the misnomers that just because you're single, you don't have any self-control.
Mm.
And I say this to my church all the time, like, I ain't in your bed, so why are you in mine?
Well,
I ain't got in yours. I ain't ask you who's in yours. Don't ask me who's in mine. And they just know what I mean by that. Like, there's a certain space of privacy that you get the dignity to. You get the dignity to reserve that in your life. And I feel like for some odd reason, the church believes that they get to pry into every single area in somebody's life, and then we use it and we throw around terms like accountability. When it's like, well, accountability to me is like I have an accounting firm and they look and see if there's any missteps with these dollars. Until you see any missteps, that's your accountability.
right. Get up off of it.
So mind your business.
Right.
So that's how I handle it. Just a very real, transparent person. That if you see me at coffee with somebody, that don't mean I'm in a relationship with her. If you see me at dinner with somebody, that does not mean that we're smashing. It don't mean that I'm getting ready to marry her or engaged to her. I'm just single. And all that single means is I'm unmarried and I still have a life that I have to live and be responsible for. So that's how I handle the pressures.
Man, and I think they gotta also notice the fact that it takes, if you have a really special prototype of a pastor, if you're a really special prototype of a Christian, don't you think you deserve the same unicorn? They gotta understand that the woman that does choose to marry or settle down with a pastor, it's not an easy title.
Right.
She gotta be prepared for that scrutiny that you have for years built up the tolerance to be able to deal with. She has to then, change her stuff up to be able to handle the weight of it and still have something to give in a relationship. So
yeah, they're gonna have to pray for me because I have the check of I will, like, I am not going to play the church games. And what I mean by that is that's my wife. She did not marry a pastor. She married the man.
wow. I know all
So
the first ladies going, I know that's right.
so y'all don't get the right to have no expectations of her.
Yeah.
Like that's y'all not in control of her. So y'all don't get the right to have any expectations of her, of how she dresses or communicates. Or if I chose to spend the rest of my life with her, then that's my choice. And if y'all mad that I didn't choose you, then just leave. Like, if that's what the issue is, if the issue is that you're attracted to me, but I chose somebody else, and you mad about that, you finna be salty, then that's why I just will hit it right over the head with it. Like, I don't want to spend, and anybody that don't hear this video, y'all got to hear my heart. I do not want to spend the best of my faith with this stuff. I want to change the world and impact families and change generations. And I feel like so much of our faith is spent in so much of the messy, dumb, ridiculous, bottom of the barrel conversations that we're not using the best of our energy to make a difference.
Well,
and that's just not the way I choose to live out my faith. I don't want to, and I'm just not there mentally. I leave before I would ever let them wreck my marriage because y'all don't like, man, please. Man, I'm just not the one. I'm just not the one.
No, that's really powerful because you're speaking from your experience and what you feel. But I think that the hearts of a lot of first ladies, they're probably really feeling, your response to that, because that gives them a voice in the situation. And I'm grateful that we went into that area.
Yeah. Glad you asked.
Yeah, I'm grateful. I'm grateful because I feel like that's going to give some validation and maybe cause some more people to speak up, because there's been a lot done over the years. There's been a lot of abuse done to families, first families in the church over the years, that I feel like has really never been addressed because they have to make faith. And I think that if we gonna pull the wool off and we gonna dress everything, I feel like let's just go on and do everything so we can get back on track, you know. And before we jump to the next question, I try to answer the question too, so I'm not just throwing you out there.
Sure.
It's very hard to me being a single Christian, especially being someone that's divorcing. I will say that the hardest thing for me is sex. Okay. You get accustomed to being able to do something in holiness, something that was beautiful, something that God asked you to do. And then you have to figure out some way as to not overindulge in that and to preserve yourself and to just not go crazy with it. Right. That has been very, very difficult for me. Sometimes I honestly, I find it hard to find scriptures and some stuff that aligns with that specifically.
Because it's not there. Because it's not there.
And I guess that's where I, use my discernment. And I just make sure that I'm trying to be as responsible as possible. But it's hard. It's like, what do you do? What are you supposed to do?
Church is not ready for me. It's not ready for me.
I'm not. Hey, I'm just like I struggle with that, and so and then too, just other sins and stuff. I will say it was easier when I had somebody walking with me about making better choices. Baby, we're not about to be cursing like we usually curse. All right, let's both do it together. It seemed like I turned into a sailor. I literally, I was like, man, and I don't think that cursing is the worst sin in the world. For my thing is, the reason I don't like to curse as much is because I don't want to praise God with the same mouth and say certain things. It's just, it don't always fit well with me. So oftentimes I ask for forgiveness and stuff like that. But I'm just using that one as an example. But yeah, it's harder. It's hard not to be worldly when you're lonely. Sometimes you want to go to the cigar bar. You want to look attractive. You want to dress up. You want to do all these things because certain needs that you used to be getting met, you don't have that anymore. And so I can't really speak to the people that's single and never been married because that's not my life. I was in a marriage. I was in, that was my reality. But it's a struggle for me. But I want to keep my Christianity closer, and I'm trying. And I hope that by me being more open, it'll draw me back into a place that I felt like I was closer when I was a married woman. I'll go on record, and I mean, only God could judge, but I do feel like I was a better Christian when I was married.
Jesus.
I do. I feel like I was a better Christian. I mean, but Jesus could be looking down saying, but you opening up more, and I gave you the spirit to speak. So I look at you as a better Christian now. But I'm saying based off of what I experienced, I look at myself as I was a better Christian than I am now. And I guess that's between me and God. Yeah. I don't know. I need to.
You have the right, what I'm saying, to perceive that. And that dignity is the thing that I try very hard not to take away. People ask me for my thoughts and for solutions. Like for me, I feel like one of the hallmarks of my ministry is that I solve difficult spiritual problems for people. Like it's like going to a specialist. You know what I'm saying? You can go to a general doctor, and a general doctor be like, you know what? I don't actually specialize in that. You're gonna need to go to a specialist, and that specialist understands that particular thing. I feel like there is a unique grace on my life that I specialize in being able to answer the very difficult spiritual questions. And a very easy, if it's even complex, the Lord has given me a very unique ability to even help in the complex stuff. That's why you see me going, I understand what you're saying, but for me, the totality of my spirituality is not defined by my behaviors. And the first thing that I will offer to you is, if you're judging your level or maturity of your spirituality by your behaviors, then you're doing yourself a disservice. Because,
come on, get me together.
You know what I'm saying? You're doing yourself a disservice because you could be tempted by sex this week and overcome that, and then be tempted by food the next week, and the next week be tempted by so the reality is, if it's if it's based on behaviors, none of us measure up. And I feel like the scripture gives us clarity on that. It is the acceptance of the fact that grace is something that he extends to us that we don't understand.
Well,
That's what maturity to me is God offers me a gift that I don't understand why he gives me a gift, because I really don't deserve it, but he gives me the gift because he believes I deserve it.
wow.
So I have to acceptance. And so I feel like many believers are just putting too much pressure on themselves through condemnation, guilt, and shame about something that they've already done that they can't go back and fix. You can't go back and undo it once you've done it.
Yeah.
So guilt does nothing for you, because guilt is basically you holding on to a feeling of something that you can't even go back and do something about.
Well, you better minister on tonight, because I think what I was doing was I was putting a cloak over guilt and calling it comparison.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was still I'm gonna receive that, and I'm gonna think about that and meditate and pray on that, because I got enough sense to not willingly accept guilt and shame.
Mm-hmm.
But I think sometimes comparison could be dressed up.
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely need more grace for myself. I see we segued already into the next question about extending grace to each other. I definitely need to have more grace for myself. And it's like every time I think I've given myself enough,
Mm-hmm.
I could always give myself more.
You know, I try to get people to process it like this. You are no more saved today than the day you got saved. Okay, so keep this in mind. You are no more saved today. You ain't more saved today than you were the day you got saved. Either he fully saved you the day you got saved, or he didn't save you at all. The process is maturity.
Woo!
You're growing into something, and you're growing into your identity. So I feel like the issue is that our measuring stick for our spirituality is wrong, and that's a religious way of thinking that makes us have these measurables based on our behaviors. And there are times in my life where I am completely squeaky clean, like I'm not doing anything, I'm just living my normal life. And then there are times where I hit a ratchet season and I'm just ratchet and I need to repent. It's like, oh, wretched man that I am, like, God, stop, I want to stop that. You know what I'm saying? Like you go through these ebb and flows based on the pressures of life, the situations of life. But the one thing that is constant is I've never left God through any of the seasons in my life. Never. One time have I ever left God. That is something to be said.
Please say it.
Through all that we've been through, we stayed with God. Come on.
Yeah.
Like, how much more faithful? You know what I'm saying? Like, I just feel like Christians we beat up on ourselves just way too hard. And it's like, yo, did you wake up this look? And I always do this example. Like, I didn't wake up this morning like, all right, God, who can I steal from today? God, who can I smash today? Never once have I woken up with that. I've never woken up with that intention.
No.
Ever.
Yeah. I'm so grateful for the way, because you are being such a blessing to me. I can't imagine how much you're blessing some of the other people that are watching it live and that also are going to check it out once we post it, on YouTube. But that is such a blessing for me, because I have to say that's my area of opportunity. Definitely. Let's see. So we are going to just briefly talk about these few chapters, and then I'm going to open the floor up so you can tell the audience about what just recently happened to your church, because I want to be a blessing myself, and then I also want my listeners, viewers, and supporters to be a blessing. So I brought up these chapters, and I'm gonna skim over them quick, because we did go a little long this evening, because you're so great. You expound. My first chapter of the book is called Addicted to Hurt. And I just talked about sometimes we can go into cycles to the point that we almost will them unto each other. And I just simple question, do you think that people will hurt into their lives? Do you think that they do it because they're used to it?
I, I think we kind of talked about this a little earlier, that it, you can't do anything about what happens to you. You can only do something about what you choose to do with what happens to you. And I just found that people are so impacted by their experiences that they don't use their experiences. And it creates a cycle because their interpretation of their experiences, and they think that everything is meant to hurt them when there are some things in life that are lessons.
Okay, quasi guides. I learned that term from one of my church sisters. She doesn't go to church with me anymore, but she's more like a mentor. And she always talked about how we make little quasi guides in our life. We make things guides. And then we get all upset when the guides don't measure up. Yeah. Have you ever suffered with a quasi guide that you created?
No. And the only reason why I say this is because I've recognized that the reason why I got saved so early was there was a distinction on my life. And so I've been pretty focused on that relationship with God. But I have been tempted, just like other people, to be disappointed at some things I've had, some situations that I've had with God. Like my divorce was disappointing for me. And so because it was disappointing, I kind of put my foot on the brake of my life instead of keeping my foot on the gas. I slowed down on some of my ideas, really like fully putting myself out there, because I was so devastated by the impact of my divorce that I didn't feel worthy. And so I can say there I was tempted. I never left God, but I didn't go for it with all the passion I could have.
Wow, that's deep. Drip Too Soft. That chapter, I was inspired by the song Drip Too Hard. You know that song?
Absolutely.
Drip Too Hard.
Right.
So that's when I heard that song, I was like, oh my goodness, like somebody is excited about their light shining and they can talk about it and express it and celebrate it. And I thought about my struggles of pretty much being afraid to shine, dealing with people that my happiness and my bubbliness and my innovation made them uncomfortable. And over time, it caused me to scale back and hide and don't want to be so bright and want to make people comfortable. I even, I experienced that from men. I'm a hard worker as well. I'm a published author, an esthetician, makeup artist, a mom. I'm the strong friend. So I'm always on the go. And I felt like, I had to hide, like, okay, I'm all those things, but let me try to be the quiet, humble, because I don't want to make nobody uncomfortable. And I realized that God gave me the light. So who am I to dim it? And I'm curious, because you have a very open personality. Have you always been this way, or did you at one point drip too soft?
So my personality is that of an introvert. And what I mean by that is when I get in my space, I recharge. It's very quiet. Like it's not a lot of noise, rambunctious, and I'm a thinker. So it helps me process a lot of my thoughts. But like I said, like with my divorce, before my divorce, I was very aggressive in ministry. This is how a lot of how I came to be known, because I was innovative, creative. I dressed how I wanted to dress. If I wanted to talk about sex in a series, I'll take 8 weeks and talk about sex with a bed on stage and didn't think twice about it.
You did that?
Oh God.
Is this on YouTube?
Definitely on YouTube.
I gotta go back.
Our church was inside of the Club Climax, the Ambassador, literally with the Climax sign behind me every single week for 5 years. Like, wow. So I have always pushed the envelope. I felt like what I felt though was the lack of support made me feel alone. And so sometimes you start to feel like, well, is this worth it? You know, I'm doing all of this innovation and creativity, and then you start to see that people are really watching you. And so I've had to slowly wake my beast back up. Real talk, like just come out beast mode. Everything that I'm thinking, instead of second guessing it, installing on it, just being quick on the draw. But I have to say that what my divorce took from me was my confidence, and it took me time to get that back.
Oh, wow. That's really transparent of you. But I'm grateful that it's restored. I'm grateful to God.
Yeah,
He's
it's
a
back.
keeper, man. He's a keeper.
Yeah.
My kinks in their chapter, I actually open up about particulars of sex. You know, we always say sex, but we all know that some sex is, you know, I guess acceptable in church, and then some people say some sex is not. Some certain kinds, certain things. You
Lord
know,
help us.
I joked earlier about, you know, subs and doms and all of that, but do you feel like that there should ever be an opening up of that? Or do you feel like people that just say business? Or do you think that, because I feel like there's a lot of shame about people's kinks, about people's preferences, about people's mental preference as it pertains to certain things and stimulation. Not even just talking about sex, just like being stimulated, enjoying certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like as a church community, and maybe the elders can't handle it, I ain't even gonna do them like that, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe the young adults, do you think that we should be trying to dig a little deeper? Or do you think that we, as long as we cover the basics, they can do that with their friends?
I feel like if you want my honest opinion, I don't think the world is mad at the church. I don't think the world is the church's enemy. I think we don't have clear enough answers for the world to turn toward us. If pornography, if pornography is the number one grossing industry, that means people in my pews are watching pornography.
Oh yeah, they're watching it.
Right. So if it's the number one grossing industry, if you have free apps, free websites, all of the above to watch other people have sex, if the church does not have these conversations, and when I say purity, I'm saying purity of intentions. It is, I want to seek to understand you before to try to cram my truth down your throat. So there's an openness and an awareness, because for me, where there is sexual suppression, you will always have sexual perversion. The reason why there's so much perversion in the church is because there's so much sexual suppression by the church. So until there is conversation, until we are like this, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm like, I shrug my shoulders because like people have sex. Like I wouldn't have a kids' church if they didn't. Like it's a thing. You know what I'm saying? So why is it nasty or dirty? And so we have to recarve the narrative and have honest conversations about it, and just really help people understand that. Think, especially in church, a lot of us came to, and this kind of went viral on my Instagram because I was talking about the church. We only talk about sexual correctness, but we don't talk about sexual trauma, and how a lot of people came to sexual awareness inappropriately through molestation, through rape, through things that their family did to them, and all of these things, incest, all of that stuff that we don't even talk about, and we don't realize that all of this is in people. So now they grown and they're trying to find a way to express this, and they're like, I'm not an evil person, I just like this, and I don't know how to get a grip on this, but we don't know how to have conversations and give answers to that. So I think that your bravery in having this conversation is great.
Thank you. Oh my goodness, you've just touched.
I'm
Oh
sorry
my
for these long
goodness.
answers, y'all. It's just the way my brain
No,
thinks.
I feel the yokes being broken on certain people right now. Just hearing someone give them a sense of identity and a place, because it's I mean I know it's men out there that are crying at night
Mm-hmm.
after they indulge in something that they've been predisposed to. They love the Lord.
Yes, they love God.
And they hurt by somebody telling them how they don't love God.
That's right.
Because they're fire. Like, I feel the fire inside of me just saying it. They want to be vindicated.
Yeah.
They want a place.
Yep.
They're talented. They
Mm-hmm.
want to be. They
Yep.
want to be in church. They want to be. And so that's why I always say same time mess is not the blueprint by far. This is a tool for me to get all the other same time messes with me, first to join hands, and let's move forward. Then we can be so dope as to pick up a book from somebody like you, or somebody like a seasoned bishop, or somebody that has been around, that really knows the word of God and that can break it down and change our lives. But in the meantime, I don't want everybody getting left out, because I ain't want to be left out.
Yeah.
You know? And lastly, like a fish out of water, this chapter was birthed because the book was done. And I was like, Christian, come on, girl, I'm ready to get paid. No. Christian,
say, market this thing.
Come on, girl. No, but Christian say, Khadijah, the editing team wants to know, how did you write a whole book called Save Time Mess and you ain't talk about church hurt? And so I'm looking at her because I actually was coming up out of some church hurt. So I'm looking at her like, I ain't want to go that deep on purpose. Why you trying to bring stuff up? And I prayed and I said, God, if I speak on this, my church family gonna read it. I don't want to start a controversy. I don't want to start any of that. And I really sat down and prayed. And just like any other time, God is something else. When I ask, and you know this as an author, when you invite God into it, the process is like, dude, it's just like, yes. So I wrote it really quick. Like, she was like, God, wait, Khadijah, like, I think a day. It might have been a day or two. I wrote it and I turned it in, and she's like, wow, this is exactly what we were looking for. And I just pretty much, I don't want to give too much away because I want people to check it out. But I did explore the depths of my church hurt, what hurt me. And I think that a lot of that went to the first question. I expected a certain level of perfection. And I had an expectation set about what I wanted. And I wasn't all the way pure in my intentions when I was serving. I was expecting something back. I felt like if I'm singing on the praise team, if I'm leading a song, if I'm dragging my kids to the Easter program, if I'm dressing up and I'm doing this, if I'm being innovative, if I'm doing all of these things, y'all supposed to do stuff for me too. Y'all seen me crying. Why y'all ain't give me no tissue? Why y'all ain't come pray with me? Why didn't nobody come do this? Why y'all ain't beat up on him? Why y'all, I was childish about it. And I really chronicled and I broke down all of that in that chapter. And ultimately I closed it up by saying, I'm actually not about to give anybody a pass to stay church hurt. I really believe that it's a bedrock for us to begin healing. And how I just want to know, just as briefly and simple as possible, how do you feel about that topic? When you hear somebody say church hurt, do you go on offense? Do you understand? Do you feel like it's outdated? What do you think about church hurt?
I seek to understand because you can't discount somebody's experiences in the place. You know what I'm saying? In the church, you can't say that didn't happen to you. But I feel like that many people need somebody that will listen, though. So for me, I'm a listener. I don't judge people's experiences. Of course, you have extremes. We've talked about this all night, that you have extremes, that there are some people that need something to blame and they will blame the institution. And I know why, because it's the one thing in the earth that is supposed to represent rightness, but it has so much wrongness in it. And I always try to tell people that that's what it's supposed to be, because it's not heaven. It's a group of people. So I seek to understand people's struggle as it pertains to church. It's a real thing for a lot of people. But I try to, and this is where it goes back to what I said earlier. The term church and religion are two totally different terms. And they've been lumped into as if they are defined the same way. And it's not the case.
It's not.
They're not the same.
Not.
Church and religion
Oh,
are not the
man.
same.
It's not. It's really not. It's not. Jesus built the church.
That's right.
And we made the religion part.
That's right.
And
That's
I
right.
hate to say it, but if I read my Bible correctly, some religion, not all, some of it, even Jesus walked in and defied.
Absolutely.
He
Yeah.
walked in and was like, I ain't doing it like that. That don't work no more for these people. You know, we can try
Right.
something different.
Right. Yep.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm so grateful. You have been so transparent.
I'm honored.
You've been so open and so honest. I just first want to let everybody know it was my request for us to share Apostle Antwain Jackson's, I almost said pastor. I know you like apostle.
No, it's fine. Antwain Jackson is fine.
Yeah, Antwain Jackson. We found out about what was going on with your church. Can you tell us about what happened? I saw it on your post on Sunday. It was a Sunday.
Yeah.
When you posted it. What happened?
So we're in a 100-plus-year-old building that we have modernized, contemporized, and everything we can to, you know what I'm saying, basically have a church in a community that isn't gentrified by the impacts of what's going on in the inner city of St. Louis. So it is to be a resource house for people spiritually and physically. And so we, during the pandemic, I've been letting my congregation reset. A lot of churches are going back into having services every single week, and I didn't feel like that was right for my church yet. I feel like we needed to step back into it because this was a major life shift.
Absolutely.
And I did not want to go back into church as usual. So our church decided to take the approach of doing once a month in person. Well, that is a big walk of faith, because the reason why a lot of churches meet every single week is because that's what pays the bills. We can't deny it. We got it. Heaven don't pay the bills. Heaven ain't paying these bills. It's the generosity of people.
Yeah.
You know, that pay these bills. And so we were preparing to meet in person, and so we were turning on the heat to get it cracking. And that broiler was out of control. We literally had to cancel our in-person service because the broiler, the fire was backing up outside of the broiler, and the expenses are, you know, we've gotten bids of some 50,000. I got a lower one for 20,000 a day. Whoopee, 20,000, you know. So until we're able to get our broiler fixed, we can't meet in person. And so that's a lot of pressure right now because we're trying to get back in the swing of things. People need this kind of ministry. It's unique. It's a special ministry. You know what I'm saying? That meets the needs of people. But if I had $20,000 just to drop on a boiler right now, I would. But who does? And so we've just been asking our community of people that appreciate our voice and appreciate our ministry to help us at least with those costs so that we can get back into in-person services.
Oh yeah. And if you are a supporter of me, and you've been following me, it would mean the world to me if you would sow into this ministry. As you all can see, he has an unorthodox way of teaching the word of God, but that's what this generation needs. And I stand fully behind your mission, your perspective.
I appreciate that.
I'm so grateful for that. And I know I'm going to be sowing as well, God willing, more than once until that need is met. And then also, I'm big on innovation. If anybody watching this that knows somebody in that industry that might want to bless this man with their talents or their connection to just fix their repair, that's a blessing as well. That's, you know, a lot of times we ask for the money because that's the way for it to be tangible. But sometimes who's to say that a person that's seasoned in broilers, come on, love the Lord, and they see it fit to come and fix that, so that this man of God does not have to wait. But I do believe in God. I know it's already done, but we just want the comfort of it being done, so you could take your mind off of that and focus on opening your church back to normal. And so please, you all, if you feel led in your heart, whether you're a member of his church or not, sow a seed. That's his Cash App. Make sure you put that cash sign first. When it pops up, I think the last time I did an offering, your name popped up. That's how I knew it was you. It said Antwain Jackson. And so
for them to know, like that of course is my name because it's my church, but that goes
Right.
directly to the church.
Directly to the church.
Like,
right.
so
But you
I
know,
ain't taking
sometimes
it.
you misspell.
Right.
You misspell, you send it to the wrong person. Check the
Yeah,
spelling,
I ain't
y'all.
cashing out. That's going directly to the
spelling.
church.
Yeah, check the spelling.
Yep.
And make sure that you can give that offering so they can get, because that's a necessity. You ain't asking for no jet, no cord,
None of it.
no
I just want this
front
doggone
roll.
broiler running so these pipes don't freeze in the wintertime and it turns into something worse.
Exactly. So I'm believing in God that that's gonna be handled quickly. I really thank you. I'm so grateful for you. This has been awe-inspiring. I'm going to go and God in prayer today about that grace for myself, like you said. I really appreciate it. And I just want to wish you a purposeful and beautiful rest of the week. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family and your church family.
Thank you.
And you have a beautiful evening. Thank you all so much for your time. Make sure you pick up Save Time Mess and put up your book one more time, y'all. Hook it up. Ooh, mine backwards because I got my front facing camera on. But make sure you guys support my book, support his book. Check it out on Amazon.com. You all have a beautiful evening. Thank you. Bye.